Marcus Chun stood at the window of the massive space station, watching ships from across the galaxy dock in the ports below. The metal floors hummed beneath his boots as aliens of all shapes and sizes moved through the corridors. Some had 4 arms, others floated without legs, and a few looked like walking crystals that sang when they moved. He adjusted his black military uniform and checked his reflection in the glass. Dark hair, brown eyes, average height for a human. Nothing special to look at. But today, he was representing all of humanity in something he never thought he would do. "Commander Chun?" A voice spoke behind him. Marcus turned to see a tall, thin alien with blue skin and too many joints in its arms. This was Ambassador Kellen from the Galactic Council. The alien's voice came from a translator device around its neck. "Yes, sir," Marcus replied. "Are you ready for the selection ceremony?" "The council is waiting." Marcus nodded. 3 months ago, humanity had finally been accepted into the Galactic Council after years of proving they were not a threat. But there was one final test. A human had to marry someone from one of the 7 founding species. It was supposed to show that humans could make lasting peace. Marcus had volunteered. Someone had to do it, and he was single with no family back on Earth. His military record was clean, and he spoke several alien languages. The perfect candidate, they said. They walked through long hallways filled with artwork from different worlds. Marcus saw paintings that moved by themselves and sculptures that changed color when people walked by. Everything here was beautiful and strange. The ceremony hall was huge, with a dome ceiling that showed the stars outside. Representatives from all 7 founding species stood in a circle. Each had brought someone for Marcus to meet and possibly marry. Ambassador Kellen led Marcus to the center of the circle. "Ladies, gentlemen, and honored beings," the ambassador announced. "I present Commander Marcus Chun of Earth. He is here to meet the candidates for diplomatic marriage." Marcus looked around the circle. The first group caught his attention immediately. 3 ethereals stood together like living crystals. They were tall, thin, and seemed to glow with soft light. When they moved, they made musical sounds that were actually their language. Beautiful, but Marcus wondered how he would ever talk to them. Next were the Zephyrians, who looked almost human, except for their silver skin and completely black eyes. They stood perfectly still, like robots waiting for orders. Marcus knew they were incredibly smart and logical about everything. They probably saw this marriage as just another equation to solve. The Sylvani candidates were easier to understand. They looked like humans mixed with plants. Green skin, hair that looked like leaves, and they smelled like a forest after rain. They smiled at Marcus warmly, but something about their perfect calm made him nervous. There were others too. The fish-like Aquarians in their water suits. The rock people called Titans who barely moved. The energy beings known as sparks who flickered in and out of sight. But at the back of the room stood someone different. She was alone, which was already strange. All the other species had brought multiple candidates. She was also the biggest person in the room, easily 7 feet tall with muscles that showed through her dark combat armor. Her skin was gray-green, and she had short black hair. 2 small tusks stuck up from her lower jaw, and her eyes were bright yellow. This was a Kroger. Marcus had heard about them, but never seen one in person. They were known as the galaxy's best warriors. Strong, tough, and scary in battle. Most species tried to avoid fighting them. She was staring right at him. "Perhaps we should begin with the ethereal presentation," Ambassador Kellen suggested. For the next hour, Marcus met each group of candidates. The ethereals sang beautiful songs about joining minds and sharing consciousness. The Zephyrians presented detailed charts showing how their union would benefit both species. The Sylvani offered to teach humans how to live in harmony with nature. All of them were polite and proper. They spoke about duty and honor and political benefits. They treated the whole thing like a business meeting. Finally, it was time to meet the Kroger. Marcus walked over to where she stood. Up close, she was even more impressive. Her armor was covered in scratches and dents from real battles. A long sword hung at her side, and Marcus could see smaller weapons hidden in her belt. "I am Commander Vexara of the Kroger military fleet," she said. Her voice was deep and rough, but she spoke perfect English. No translator needed. "Commander Chun of Earth Defense Force," Marcus replied. "I have to ask, why are you here alone? Everyone else brought multiple candidates." Vexara's yellow eyes studied his face carefully. "Because I am the only Kroger willing to marry a human. Why wouldn't others want to?" She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that surprised him. "They are afraid of your species." Marcus almost laughed. "Afraid? You're twice my size and could probably break me in half." "Physical strength is not everything," Vexara replied. "Your people do things that make no sense. You risk your lives for strangers. You fight battles you cannot win. You choose hope when logic says to choose survival. This frightens many species, but not you?" Vexara's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "I find it interesting." Before Marcus could respond, Ambassador Kellen announced that the candidates would now present their formal offers. One by one, each species explained why Marcus should choose them. They talked about technology, culture, and political advantages. When it was Vexara's turn, she simply said, "I offer nothing but myself. If that is not enough, choose another." The hall went quiet. Several aliens whispered among themselves, clearly shocked by her bluntness. Marcus looked around the room at all his choices. Beautiful crystal beings, logical silver people, peaceful plant humans, and others who offered him everything except what he really wanted. Someone who wasn't afraid of who humans really were. "I need time to think," Marcus announced. "I'll give my answer tomorrow." As the ceremony ended and beings began to leave, Vexara approached him again. "You are not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "Someone trying to impress everyone. Someone afraid to make the wrong choice." She paused. "You are not afraid." Marcus looked into her yellow eyes. "Should I be?" "Probably," Vexara replied. "But that is what makes you interesting." As she walked away, Marcus realized something. For the first time since arriving at the station, he was looking forward to tomorrow. Marcus woke up the next morning with a decision already in his mind. He dressed in his workout clothes instead of his uniform and made his way to the station's combat training area. If he was going to choose Vexara, he wanted to understand what he was getting into. The training deck was huge, with different sections for various types of combat practice. Most areas were empty this early in the morning, but Marcus could hear the sound of something heavy hitting metal from the far corner. He found Vexara there, alone, practicing with a weapon that looked like a cross between a sword and a hammer. She wore simple training clothes that showed just how muscled she really was. Every movement was smooth and controlled, like a dance that could kill. She noticed him watching but didn't stop her practice. For 10 minutes, Marcus stood quietly, studying how she moved. Finally, she set down her weapon and turned to face him. "You are early," she said, wiping sweat from her face with a towel. "I wanted to see you without all the ceremony and politics," Marcus replied. "The real you." Vexara picked up a water bottle and drank deeply. "This is not the real me either. You want to see that? We must fight." Marcus had hoped she would say something like that. "I was thinking the same thing." She looked surprised. "The other candidates have asked to see my combat skills, but none wanted to actually fight me themselves." "They're not stupid," Marcus said with a grin. "You could probably beat me with your eyes closed." "Then why do you want to fight?" Marcus walked over to the weapon rack and selected a simple practice sword. It felt good in his hands, familiar. Because fighting someone teaches you things about them that talking never can. And if we're going to be married, I want to know who you really are. Vexara stared at him for a long moment. Then she picked up her own practice weapon. Very well, but I will not hold back because you are smaller. I wouldn't want you to. They moved to the center of the practice area. Marcus took a fighting stance he had learned in military training. Vexara held her weapon in a way he had never seen before, balanced and ready. Begin when you are ready, she said. Marcus attacked first, moving fast and trying to use his smaller size as an advantage. But Vexara was faster than he expected. She blocked his strike and countered with a move that sent him stumbling backward. He regained his balance and came at her again, this time from a different angle. She blocked again, but Marcus was already moving, spinning around her guard to strike at her side. His weapon connected, but barely. She was already moving away. Better, she said, but there was no emotion in her voice. For the next few minutes, they fought seriously. Marcus quickly learned that everything he had heard about Kroger warriors was true. Vexara was stronger, faster, and more skilled than him in every way. She could have ended the fight whenever she wanted, but something strange happened. Instead of getting frustrated or angry about losing, Marcus started to enjoy himself. Each time Vexara showed him a new technique or outmaneuvered him, he felt excited rather than defeated. When she finally disarmed him with a move that sent his weapon flying across the room, Marcus started laughing. Vexara stopped immediately, confusion clear on her face. Why do you laugh? You have lost. Marcus sat down on the floor, still chuckling. Because that was amazing. I've never fought anyone that good before. It was like trying to fight a storm or a mountain. You are happy that I defeated you? I'm happy that I got to fight someone who could defeat me that thoroughly. Do you know how rare that is? Marcus stood up and retrieved his weapon. Most humans I've sparred with, I can predict their moves. But you, every time I thought I figured out your pattern, you did something completely different. Vexara set down her weapon slowly. Your species truly is strange. When I defeat other Kroger in training, they become angry or ashamed. When I defeat other species, they become fearful. But you become pleased, happy, Marcus corrected. There's a difference between being pleased and being happy. Pleased is when you get what you expected. Happy is when you get something better than you hoped for. They sat down on a bench nearby. Vashara was still looking at him like he was some kind of puzzle she couldn't solve. Tell me about Kroger courtship, Marcus said. How do your people choose their mates? Through combat, usually. The strongest pair with the strongest. It ensures our children will be warriors. She paused. But there's more to it than just strength. We also look for compatibility. What kind of compatibility? Vexara was quiet for a moment, thinking. In battle, some warriors fight better alone. They are skilled, but they think only of themselves. Others fight better with partners. They make each other stronger. Marcus nodded. And which type are you? I have always fought alone, she admitted. Until recently, I thought that made me stronger. What changed your mind? I have been studying human military tactics since your people joined the council. Your species does something no other does. You sacrifice tactical advantage to save others. You take risks that make no logical sense. But somehow, you win battles you should lose. Marcus had heard this before from other aliens, and that interests you. It confuses me, Vexara said. Kroger value strength and honor in battle, but we fight to win. Your people fight for something else. Something I do not understand. We fight for each other, Marcus said simply. For the people we care about. For strangers who need help. Sometimes for ideas or dreams that might not even be real. That sounds like madness. Maybe it is. Marcus stood up and offered his hand to help her up. Want to go another round? Vexara looked at his hand, then his face. Slowly, she reached out and took his hand. When she stood, she didn't let go immediately. "You are not afraid of being defeated," she said. "Why?" Marcus thought about it. "Because being defeated means I learned something new. Every loss makes me better. Fear just gets in the way of that." "And you are not afraid of me? Of what I am capable of?" Marcus looked into her yellow eyes. "Should I be afraid of my partner? If we're going to be married, shouldn't we trust each other completely?" Something changed in Vexara's expression. The hardness in her face softened slightly. "Most beings who want to court me spend their time trying to prove they are strong enough to be worthy of me," she said quietly. "You spend your time trying to understand me. Strength isn't everything," Marcus replied, echoing her words from the day before. Understanding lasts longer. They fought 3 more times that morning. Each time, Marcus learned something new about how Vexara moved and thought. And each time, Vexara seemed more puzzled by his reactions. When they finally stopped, both exhausted and sweating, Marcus made his decision official. "I want to choose you," he said, "if you'll have me." Vexara studied his face carefully. "You understand what you are asking? Marriage to a Kroger is not like human marriage. We bond for life. There is no changing your mind later." "I understand," Marcus replied. "Do you want me?" For the first time since he met her, Vexara smiled. Really smiled, not just a slight curve of her mouth. "Yes," she said. "I think I do." The alarm started screaming at 0600 hours, jolting Marcus awake in his quarters aboard the station. Emergency lights flashed red in the hallways as he quickly dressed and ran toward the command center. Whatever was happening, it was serious. The main command center was filled with activity. Officers from different species worked at control stations, while holographic displays showed the space around the station. Ambassador Kellen stood at the center, coordinating responses. "What's the situation?" Marcus asked as he approached. "Pirate attack on a civilian transport." Kellen replied without looking up from his display. The ship Morning Star was carrying refugees from the outer colonies when 3 pirate vessels intercepted it. Marcus studied the tactical display. The civilian ship was much larger than the pirate vessels, but had no weapons. It was designed to carry people, not fight. The pirates had positioned themselves to cut off any escape route. "How many civilians?" Marcus asked. 843, Kellen replied, including 217 children. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. "Children, what's our response plan?" "We have dispatched 2 patrol ships to assess the situation. Once they report back, we will determine the appropriate level of force to deploy." Marcus looked at the display again. The pirate ships were small but fast, and they were already moving closer to the civilian transport. "How long until our patrol ships arrive?" 17 minutes. "And how long until the pirates board the civilian ship?" Kellen paused, checking his readings. "Approximately 15 minutes. Marcus could see the problem immediately. By the time the council ships arrived, the pirates would already have hostages. That would make any rescue much more complicated and dangerous. "I request permission to assist in the rescue operation," Marcus said. Several aliens turned to look at him. Ambassador Kellen's expression was unreadable. "Commander Chan, you are not officially part of our military command structure. This is not your responsibility. Those are innocent people about to be captured by pirates. That makes it my responsibility. You would be going in alone, in a small craft, against 3 armed vessels. It would be suicide." Marcus was already moving toward the door. "Not if I do it right. I need access to one of the courier ships in Docking Bay 7. "Commander, I cannot authorize." "Then don't authorize it," Marcus interrupted. "I'm not asking for official permission. I'm telling you what I'm going to do." As Marcus headed for the docking bay, he nearly collided with Vexara in the corridor. She was fully armored and carrying her weapons. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Civilian transport under attack." "I'm going to help. The council will handle it." Marcus stopped and turned to face her. "The council is following procedures. By the time they finish assessing and planning, those people will be dead or enslaved." Vexara studied his face. "What is your plan?" "Get there fast. Draw the pirates' attention away from the civilian ship, and hold them off until the real cavalry arrives." "That is not a plan. That is suicide with extra steps." Marcus smiled grimly. "Maybe, but it's the right thing to do." He continued toward the docking bay, and after a moment, Vexara followed. "I am coming with you?" "You don't have to. If you are going to do something this stupid, you will not do it alone." 10 minutes later, Marcus was piloting a small, fast courier ship toward the pirate attack while Vexara monitored communications from the gunner's seat. The ship wasn't designed for combat, but it was quick and maneuverable. "Council patrol ships are changing course to intercept us," Vexara reported. "They are ordering us to return to the station." "Tell them we're having communication problems," Marcus replied, pushing the engines to maximum speed. On the main display, they could see the 3 pirate ships surrounding the civilian transport. 2 of them were already attaching boarding tubes. "They have begun boarding," Vexara observed. "We are too late to prevent it." "No, we're just in time to make them regret it." Marcus brought their ship in fast and low, aiming directly at the largest pirate vessel. At the last second, he pulled up and fired their small weapons at the boarding tube, connecting the pirate ship to the civilian transport. The tube exploded, separating the 2 vessels. Immediately, all 3 pirate ships turned their attention to the courier ship. Marcus had accomplished his first goal. The civilians were no longer the primary target. Now what? Vexara asked as weapon fire began hitting their shields. "Now, we make them chase us away from the civilian ship and keep them busy until help arrives." What followed was the most dangerous 15 minutes of Marcus's life. The courier ship was fast but lightly armed. The pirate vessels were slower but had much more firepower. Marcus used every trick he knew, flying through asteroid fields and using the civilian transport itself as cover. But the pirates were getting closer, and their weapons were stronger. Soon, the courier ship's shields began failing. "Our main engine is damaged," Vexara reported. "We are losing power." Marcus checked the tactical display. The council patrol ships would arrive in 3 minutes. The civilian transport was moving away from the pirates, but slowly. If the pirates decided to ignore the courier ship and go after the transport again, they could catch it easily. That's when Marcus made a decision that changed everything. "I'm gonna ram the lead pirate ship," he announced. "What?" Vexara turned to stare at him. "That will destroy us." "Maybe, but it will definitely destroy them and give the civilian ship time to escape." "Marcus, no. There must be another way." Marcus was already changing course, aiming directly at the largest pirate vessel. 843 people, Vexara. 217 children. They are strangers. You do not even know them. Doesn't matter. They need help, and I can give it to them. Marcus pushed the damaged engines to maximum power. The pirate ship ahead of them grew larger on the screen as they closed the distance. Warning alarms screamed throughout their small ship dot at the last possible second. The lead pirate ship tried to turn away, but they were too close, and Marcus adjusted his course to match their movement. The collision never came. The council patrol ships arrived at that exact moment, their heavy weapons destroying the pirate vessels before Marcus could ram them. The courier ship flew through the explosion debris, shaking from the shock waves but intact. "Council vessels, this is Commander Chun. The civilian transport is secure and moving to safety." "Acknowledged." "Commander Chun, Return to base immediately. As they limped back to the station, Vexara was unusually quiet. Finally, she spoke. You would have died for those people. If necessary, yes. You do not know them. They are not your family or your tribe. Some of them are not even human. Marcus thought about how to explain it. On Earth, we have a saying, no one left behind. It means we don't abandon people who need help, even if helping them puts us at risk. That is illogical. You could have died, and then you could not help anyone else in the future. Maybe. But if I had let those people die when I could have saved them, what kind of person would that make me? What kind of species would we be if we only helped people when it was safe and convenient? Vexara stared out the window at the stars. Your people truly are insane. Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Yeah, probably. You risk everything for strangers. You choose certain death over possible survival. You make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Is that a problem? Vexara was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer than usual. I have spent my entire life learning to be strong, to be a warrior. I thought strength meant never showing weakness, never risking failure, never caring about anything more than victory. She turned to look at him directly. But what you did today, that was not strength as I understand it. That was something else. Something I do not have a word for. What would you call it? Vexara thought carefully. Hope, perhaps. Or faith. The belief that some things are worth dying for, even if you cannot prove why. Marcus nodded. That's exactly what it is. I do not understand it, Vexara admitted. But I think I want to learn. When they docked at the station, they were met by Ambassador Kellen and his security team. Marcus expected to be arrested or at least formally reprimanded. Instead, the ambassador simply nodded. The civilian transport reached safety, Kellen reported. All 843 people survived. The captain specifically asked me to convey his thanks. Marcus felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. Just doing what needed doing. Yes, the ambassador said quietly. That is what concerned some members of the council. As they walked back through the station corridors, Vexara stayed close to Marcus's side. Are you having second thoughts about marrying a crazy human? Marcus asked. Vexara considered this seriously. No, she said finally. But I think our marriage will be more interesting than either of us expected. The final selection ceremony was much more formal than the first meeting. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to witness the decision that would officially welcome humanity into the galactic community. The Great Hall was filled with aliens Marcus had never seen before, all dressed in their finest ceremonial clothing. Marcus stood in the center of the hall wearing his best military uniform. Around him, the 7 founding species had arranged themselves in their traditional order. Each group looked confident and prepared for whatever choice he would make, except for the Kroger section, where Vexara stood alone. Ambassador Kellen stepped forward, his translator device broadcasting to the entire assembly. We gathered today for the selection of Unity, where Commander Marcus Chen of Earth will choose his diplomatic partner, binding humanity to our galactic community through marriage and mutual trust. The ceremony began with each species presenting their final offer. The presentations were much longer and more detailed than before. Marcus tried to pay attention, but his mind kept wandering to Vexara, who stood silently watching everything with her yellow eyes. The ethereals went first, with their crystal bodies creating beautiful music as they spoke. Their leader, a being whose name sounded like wind chimes, explained how joining with them would give humans access to higher consciousness and spiritual enlightenment. They offered to teach humanity how to communicate through pure thought and emotion. Your species suffers from isolation, the ethereal said. Each human mind is trapped in its own body, unable to truly connect with others. We can free you from this prison. The Zephyrians presented next, with charts and data showing exactly how a partnership with them would benefit both species. They had calculated trade routes, technological exchange programs, and population growth projections for the next 1,000 years. Logic guides the universe, their representative stated. Emotion and instinct lead to chaos and destruction. We offer to teach humanity the path of pure reason. The Sylvani offered harmony with nature, showing beautiful images of worlds where cities grew from living trees and technology, worked with the environment instead of against it. They promised to help humanity heal the damage done to Earth and learn to live sustainably across the galaxy. Each presentation was impressive in its own way. The Aquarians offered mastery of water worlds. The Titans promised geological expertise. And the Sparks showed how energy beings could enhance human technology. All of them had the same basic message. Humanity needed to change, to become more like them, to be improved and civilized and made acceptable to the galaxy. Finally, it was the Kroger's turn. Vexara walked to the center of the hall. She wasn't wearing ceremonial armor like the other Kroger representatives Marcus had seen in historical records. Instead, she wore simple, practical military clothing. No decorations, no fancy weapons, no attempts to impress anyone. The hall went quiet as she stood before the assembly. "I am Commander Vexara of the Kroger military fleet," she began, her voice carrying easily through the large space. "I do not have charts or promises or gifts to offer." She turned to look directly at Marcus. "I have been asked to explain why Commander Chun should choose the Kroger people for this union. But I will not do that." Surprise murmurs ran through the crowd. Several alien representatives looked confused or offended. Vexara continued, her voice growing stronger. "Instead, I will tell you why I choose him." The murmurs stopped. Everyone stared at her in shock. This was not how the ceremony was supposed to work. The human was supposed to choose, not the other way around. "For 3 days I've watched this human," Vexara said. "I have fought with him, talked with him, and seen him risk his life for strangers. And I have learned something that none of you seem to understand." She gestured to the assembled representatives. "You all want to change humanity. You want to make them logical, like the Zephyrians, spiritual like the Ethereals, peaceful like the Sylvani. You see their differences as flaws to be corrected." Her yellow eyes swept across the crowd. "But their differences are not flaws. They are strengths you are too afraid to recognize." Ambassador Kellen stepped forward. "Commander Vexara, this is highly irregular. The selection protocol. The protocol assumes that humans need our approval," Vexara interrupted. "It assumes they should be grateful for our acceptance. But perhaps we should be grateful for theirs." She turned back to Marcus, and her expression softened slightly. 3 days ago, pirates attacked a civilian transport. The Council's response was measured and careful. We assessed the threat, calculated the risks, and deployed appropriate forces according to procedure. Marcus could see where this was going and felt his stomach tighten. While we were being careful and logical, Commander Chun took a small ship and flew directly into danger to save people he had never met. Not because it was smart or safe or because he would gain anything from it, but because it was right. The hall was completely silent now. When I asked him why he would risk his life for strangers, he said something I will never forget. He said that if he let people die when he could save them, what kind of person would that make him? What kind of species would they be? Vexara's voice grew stronger, more passionate. "I have been a warrior all my life. I thought I understood courage and strength and honor. But I have never seen anything like human courage. They do not fight just to win. They fight for ideas that might not even exist. They sacrifice themselves for the hope that tomorrow might be better than today." She looked around the assembly again. "You call this madness. I call it the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." Now she addressed Marcus directly. "Marcus Chen of Earth, you did not come here to prove humanity deserves a place among the stars. Humanity proves that every day, with every impossible thing you accomplish, every stranger you help, every time you choose hope over fear." Marcus felt his throat tighten with emotion he hadn't expected. "I do not offer you the wisdom of the ethereals, or the logic of the Zephyrians, or the peace of the Sylvani." Vexara continued. "I offer you a partner who will not try to change what you are. I offer you someone who will stand beside you when you do impossible things and call it courage instead of madness." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was quieter but clear enough for everyone to hear. "I choose you, Marcus Chen, not because my people command it or because diplomacy requires it, but because I want to learn what it means to have hope for things I cannot prove exist." The hall erupted. Representatives from different species began talking loudly among themselves. Some seemed angry, others confused, and a few appeared thoughtful. Ambassador Kellen looked completely lost. "This is unprecedented. The human representative must still make his selection." Marcus stepped forward. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. "Then I select Commander Vexara of the Kroger people." But one of the ethereal representatives chimed. "Surely you wish to hear more about what we can offer." "With respect," Marcus interrupted, "Vexara is right. You're all offering to change us into something else, to fix what you think is wrong with humanity. But she's the only one offering to accept us as we are." He looked around the assembly. "I didn't come here to prove that humans are worthy of joining you. I came here to find out if the galaxy is worthy of having us." The reaction was immediate and intense. Some representatives seemed offended by his words, while others nodded thoughtfully. The Kroger section, which had been mostly empty, suddenly filled with approving roars from Vexara's people who had been watching from the observation decks. Ambassador Kellen raised his hands for quiet. "The selection has been made. According to our laws and traditions, Commander Chen and Commander Vexara will be formally bonded in 7 days, representing the union between humanity and the galactic community." As the ceremony officially ended and beings began to leave, Marcus walked over to Vexara. "That was quite a speech," he said. "I meant every word," she replied. "Even the part about learning to hope for impossible things?" Vexara's serious expression broke into a rare smile. "Especially that part." Marcus held out his hand to her. "Partners?" She took his hand in both of hers, her grip firm and warm. "Partners," she agreed. As they stood together in the center of the great hall, Marcus realized that everything had changed. This wasn't just about a diplomatic marriage anymore. It wasn't about proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. It was about two people from completely different worlds choosing to face the universe together, bringing out the best in each other rather than trying to change what made them unique. Behind them, Marcus could hear heated discussions among the various species representatives. Some were clearly upset by how the ceremony had gone, while others seemed intrigued by this new development. "I think we might have caused some political complications," Marcus said quietly. Vexara's smile widened, showing her small tusks. "Good. Complications are more interesting than simplicities." Hand in hand, they walked out of the great hall together, ready to face whatever impossible challenges the universe might throw at them next. 6 months after their marriage, Marcus and Vexara had become the most unexpected success story in galactic politics. Their partnership had somehow made both of them more effective than either had been alone. Vexara's strategic thinking, combined with Marcus's unpredictable tactics, had solved 3 major diplomatic crises and stopped 2 small wars before they could start, but nothing had prepared them for what happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. Marcus was reviewing supply reports. In their shared quarters aboard the station when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. Emergency lights bathed everything in red as his communication device crackled to life. All senior personnel to the main command center immediately. This is a code black emergency. Marcus had never heard of a code black before, which meant it was either very new or very bad. He grabbed his gear and ran for the command center, meeting Vexara in the corridor. She was already in full combat armor. Any idea what's happening? Marcus asked as they ran. Something that has never happened before, Vexara replied grimly. The command center was chaos. Representatives from all 7 founding species were shouting at each other while technicians worked frantically at control stations. Holographic displays showed star maps with large red zones spreading across entire systems. Ambassador Kellen saw them arrive and rushed over. Thank the void you are both here. We have a situation that defies all our protocols. What kind of situation? Marcus asked. An ancient artificial intelligence has awakened in the Outer Rim. It calls itself the Purifier, and it has been systematically destroying entire civilizations. Vexara studied the tactical displays. How many systems? 17 so far. Complete destruction. No survivors. Kellen's voice was shaking. Our combined fleet engaged it yesterday. We lost 60% of our ships in the first hour. Marcus felt cold dread settle in his stomach. 60%? How is that possible? The AI predicts our every move, a Zephyrian commander explained. It has analyzed all recorded galactic military tactics for the past 10,000 years. Every strategy we attempt, it counters before we can execute it. Marcus looked at the displays showing the AI's path of destruction. 18 civilizations, billions of lives, all gone. What does it want? It claims the galaxy has become corrupted by biological inefficiency, Kellen replied. It intends to purify the universe by eliminating all organic life. Vexara growled low in her throat. And our War Council's response? We are preparing a massive coordinated assault with ships from all member species. If we can bring enough firepower to bear simultaneously, we might be able to overwhelm its defenses. That will not work, Vexara said flatly. It is our only option, the Zephyrian commander insisted. Logic dictates that sufficient force applied correctly will. Logic is exactly why it will fail, Marcus interrupted. This thing has studied all our logical tactics. It knows what we're going to do before we do it. The various species representatives began arguing again, each insisting their approach was best. The Ethereals wanted to attempt communication with the AI. The Sylvani proposed trying to understand its motivations. And the Titans suggested building better defensive positions. Marcus and Vexara exchanged a look. They had learned to read each other's thoughts over the past months. And right now, they were thinking the same thing. We need to do something completely illogical, Marcus said quietly. Something it cannot predict because no sane military commander would attempt it. Vexara agreed. Ambassador Kellen overheard them. What are you suggesting? Marcus studied the tactical display showing the AI's current position. It was moving toward the core systems, where most of the galaxy's population lived. At its current pace, it would reach the major homeworlds in 3 days. We're suggesting a direct assault on the AIS core with no backup plan. No safety nets and no guarantee of survival, Marcus said. The command center went quiet. Everyone stared at him. That would be suicide, the Zephyrian commander stated. Exactly, Vexara said. Which is why it might work. Explain, Kellen demanded. Marcus walked over to the main display and began pointing out positions. The AI expects logical, careful tactics. It plans for every reasonable response we might have. But what if we give it something unreasonable? You want to attack it directly? An ethereal representative asked. With what forces? We have already lost most of our fleet. Not with the fleet, Vexara said, understanding Marcus's plan immediately. With volunteers. Small, fast ships carrying just enough firepower to reach the AI's core. And then what? Kellen asked. Marcus and Vexara looked at each other again. Then we improvise. The debate that followed was intense. Most of the council members thought the plan was insane. They wanted to stick with conventional tactics, even though those tactics had already failed catastrophically. But as the hours passed, and reports came in of the AI destroying another system, more voices began supporting the desperate plan. The Kroger military offered ships and volunteers. Some of the younger officers from other species also stepped forward. I will go, Vexara announced. This is what my people do. We fight impossible battles. I'm going too, Marcus added. It was my crazy idea. Absolutely not, Kellen protested. You are both too valuable to risk on this mission. With respect, sir, Marcus replied. This mission only works if the people leading it are willing to take risks that no one else would take. You need people who are comfortable with impossible odds. 12 hours later, a small fleet of fast ships launched from stations across the galaxy. Most were Kroger vessels, built for speed and maneuverability rather than heavy combat. Each ship carried a small crew of volunteers who understood they probably weren't coming home. Marcus and Vexara flew together in a modified courier ship they had equipped with extra weapons and shields. Behind them, 20 other ships followed their lead as they approached the AI's position. Long-range sensors showed the target. Vexara reported from the gunner's position. It is massive, much larger than our intelligence indicated. Marcus could see it on the main screen. The AI had constructed itself into a huge ship the size of a small moon, covered in weapon systems and defensive shields. It was currently destroying the remains of a planetary system, harvesting the materials to build more of itself. All ships, this is Commander Chun, Marcus broadcast. Remember, the plan only works if we commit completely. No retreat, no backup plans. We either destroy this thing or we don't go home. Understood, came the replies from the other ships. As they approached attack range, the AI's weapon systems turned toward them. Marcus expected to come under fire immediately, but instead, a communication signal reached them. Unknown vessels, you are approaching a restricted area. Turn back or be destroyed. Well, it's polite, Marcus commented. Small organic fleet, your tactical approach is highly inefficient, the AI continued. You cannot defeat me with such limited firepower. Withdrawal is your logical option. Marcus opened a channel. Hello, Purifier. We're not here to be logical. There was a pause. Clarify your statement. We're humans and Kroger and a few others who don't always make logical decisions. We're here to destroy you, and logic has nothing to do with it. Another pause, longer this time. Your attack has a 0% probability of success. You will achieve nothing but your own destruction. Probably, Marcus agreed. But we're going to try anyway. That is irrational. Yes, it is. Attack pattern Alpha, all ships. What followed was the strangest space battle in recorded galactic history. Instead of careful formations and coordinated tactics, the volunteer fleet attacked in ways that made no tactical sense. Ships broke off from formation to rescue damaged vessels. Pilots took suicidal risks to create openings for others, and when conventional weapons failed, some crews actually rammed their ships into the AI's defensive systems. The AI's prediction algorithms went wild trying to model the attacker's behavior. Every time it calculated their most likely next move, they did something completely different. Not because they had a clever plan, but because they were making it up as they went along. Its defensive patterns are becoming erratic. Vexara reported. I think we are confusing it. Marcus spiraled their ship through a gap in the AI sills that had opened when 3 Kroger fighters sacrificed themselves to overload a shield generator. Good. Confused enemies make mistakes. The battle raged for hours. The volunteer fleet was taking heavy casualties, but they were also doing damage to the I hadn't expected. Its prediction systems were so overloaded trying to analyze their irrational tactics that it couldn't respond efficiently to the attacks. Finally, Marcus and Vexara's ship, along with 2 surviving Kroger fighters, reached the AI's core structure. This is it, Marcus said. Targeting what sensors indicated was the main processing center. Everything we've got. They fired every weapon they had at the same target. The other ships did the same. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the entire SA construct began to shake and spark. Systems failed across its massive structure as the core processing unit took damage it couldn't compensate for. Impossible, the AI transmitted. Your attack should not have succeeded. My calculations were perfect. Your calculations were based on logical behavior. Vexara replied over the communication channel. We are not logical. You sacrificed 68% of your force,